It was early October, the air just beginning to carry that bite of the coming cold, and I could already hear my mother's voice in my head, before she even called. Every year around this time, my family gears up for what they call tradition. In our house, tradition means the women cook until their backs ache, the men refill drinks, and everybody pretends to be having the time of their lives. It's not a celebration, it's choreography. You hit your marks, say your lines, and you do not make waves. And me, I've always been the reliable one, the quiet one, the one who slices, simmers, serves, and cleans. They say I'm so good at this, like that's a compliment. Like that excuses the fact I've missed 20 years of sitting at the actual table, 20 years of being needed, but never seen. This year, though, was supposed to be different. That's what she said. The call came on a Tuesday morning, just as I'd sat down with my planner, finally about to book the trip I'd been putting off for months. The timing was perfect. Too perfect. I didn't even have to look at the screen to know it was her. "Hey, sweetheart." My mother's voice lilted over the speaker. "So, your father and I were talking. You know, our 40th is coming up." I closed my eyes. I didn't respond. She kept going, like always. "We're not asking for anything big, just a few simple dishes, the usual. Nothing fancy. Honestly, no one does it like you, and we're just so lucky to have you. You're our little gift. You know that?" It's funny how someone can guilt you into giving up your time and still call it a blessing. I almost said no. I had the word on my tongue, but then she said it. "Your grandmother would be so proud of the woman you've become." And just like that, the trap shut. I said yes. But in my head, I added a quiet condition. This will be the last time. 2 days later, an email from my father landed in my inbox. It wasn't a message, it was an order. Anniversary dinner logistics. The subject line already made my stomach knot. Guest list, 35 people. Menu, full spread. Turkey, ham, 5 sides, 3 desserts. Vegetarian options. Gluten-free. There was no mention of co-hosts, no other names, just mine. At the bottom of the email, in bold, "Your mother said you'd handle it like always." I read that line 3 times. Like always. I stared at the draft of my reply. I wrote, "I won't be able to manage this alone," then deleted it. Typed, "Can someone else help with desserts?" Deleted again. I closed the laptop. I didn't send anything. The next afternoon, a thick, shiny envelope arrived, the kind you send for weddings or corporate fundraisers. I flipped it over. Return address was Ramsey and Calder, my brother and his wife. Inside was the formal invitation for the party. Cream cardstock, embossed gold edges, printed names. I scanned it once. Then again, my name wasn't on it. The host line read, "Hosted with love by Calder and Ramsey Stroud." I stared at it like it would change if I looked long enough. I was cooking for 35 people. I was planning the entire menu. And yet, I wasn't a host. I wasn't even listed. I called Ramsey. She picked up with that breezy tone she always uses when she knows she's guilty. "Hey, what's up?" "I just got the invite." "Oh, isn't it gorgeous?" Calder insisted on the thicker paper, men and their aesthetics. I cut in. "My name isn't on it." A pause, then a laugh. "Oh, that. Yeah, the designer messed up. It was a total oversight, nothing intentional. Don't be dramatic." I didn't respond. I hung up. That kind of betrayal doesn't come loud. It comes quiet, cold, polished like the invitation itself. Later that night, I stood at the kitchen sink, hands wet, staring at the steam curling from the dishwater. My mind drifted to being 9 years old, told to set the table while my brothers played outside. My mother said, "Girls just help better." At the time, I didn't question it. I remembered burning the rolls at Thanksgiving when I was 17, cried in the pantry. No one noticed. I remembered Ramsey getting praised for her perfect hosting skills last year after I'd cooked everything. The sounds came back too. Clatter of plates, forks scraping, laughter. I wasn't part of. Conversations I only heard from behind the stove. I asked myself a question I had never dared to speak before. What if I didn't show up? I dried my hands. walked to the fridge. There was a sticky note, bright yellow, stuck to the door. 35 guests. Arrive early. I stared at it for a long time. Then I whispered, "They didn't invite me. They assigned me because I won't be anywhere near the damn table." That thought stuck with me as I stepped into the kitchen the next morning. The smell of old dish towels, forgotten spices, and plastic wrap clung to the air like something too stubborn to leave. A list was taped to the fridge, scrawled in my mother's handwriting. It wasn't addressed to me, but it didn't need to be. Ground turkey, 3 lobes. Gluten-free pasta, for Ramsey. Lemon tart supplies, same as last year. Extra napkins, maple leaf fold. There was nothing that said thank you, or even please, just instructions, like I was a hired hand who already cashed the check. Mom wasn't there, out finalizing decorations, according to Calder, who was too busy polishing his cufflinks to look up when I asked. Ramsey had vanished again, probably on another podcast call. The kitchen was empty, except for me, and the weight. I opened the silverware drawer, a mess, nothing where it belonged. I adjusted the knives automatically. My hands remembered more than my mind wanted to. I knew where every damn thing was in this house, better than I did in my own kitchen. I was never invited, I muttered, pulling out the tart pan. I was assigned. And it hit me then, not hard, but quiet, like drizzle instead of thunder. Maybe it was never about love. Maybe it was just reliance dressed up as tradition. I was halfway through prepping the garlic butter when the back door creaked open. Mrs. Lively strolled in, all pearl earrings and polite disapproval. "Well, look at you go," she chirped, placing her purse on the counter. "Are you with a catering company?" I blinked. "No, ma'am." "Oh, my mistake. Your mom said you're a pro at this." She laughed, tapping my shoulder like I was a barista who forgot her usual. I didn't respond. Just smiled the kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. She left 5 minutes later with a half glass of sweet tea and zero awareness of what she'd just said. Nobody corrected her. Later, when I mentioned it to Mom, she laughed. "Well, you are better than half the caterers in town." It wasn't a compliment, it was positioning. I wasn't family, I was function. By early evening, I was elbow deep in prep. That's when I saw it, the printed menu, laminated and leaned against the coffee maker like it was proud of itself. Every item had a name attached. Calder's roast beef, Ramsey's signature tart. I froze. My lemon tart, the one I invented for Grandma Odessa's 80th, the one I've made every year since. I held the menu up to Ramsey that night, casually, like it was a joke. She didn't even blink. "Marketing sounds better that way. Don't be petty." Calder chimed in from across the room. "It's just a name. The food matters more than the label." I didn't argue. I just took a photo of the menu with my phone and saved it to a folder I quietly named Proof. That night, we sat down for dinner, or they did anyway. I stood, like I always do, moving dishes, clearing plates, refilling glasses. The conversation buzzed around me. Ramsey's podcast hit 10,000 downloads. Calder might get a district promotion. Dad nodded with that slow, proud approval he gives to men who remind him of himself. Not once did anyone say my name. I began to wonder what would happen if I didn't show up next year, or the year after. Would they even notice? Or would someone else's name just appear on the tart? I cook their memories, I thought, scraping a plate into the trash. But they forget mine. After the meal, I stayed behind to clean up. By then, the rest had retired to the den, sipping wine and replaying old family videos on mute. Willa came in quietly, holding a drawing. "Why don't you sit with us?" she asked. I smiled. "Because someone has to clean." She looked confused, but didn't question it. She handed me her picture. Everyone was at the table. I wasn't in it. "I didn't know where to draw you," she said softly. "It's okay," I said. But inside, something broke open. I saw myself in her, setting forks at age 7, sweeping crumbs no one else saw, learning early that invisibility was easier than confrontation. I dried my hands on the dish towel and whispered under my breath, "Next time, no one will have to ask why I'm not at the table." And I was finally ready to test that theory. I walked into the event hall just after noon. The air was dry, lights too bright, the floor cold and polished like a hospital corridor. Darla was already there, hair sprayed into place, clipboard in hand, pacing between tables like she was directing a wedding. "Here's the final seating chart," she said, not looking up as she handed me a laminated sheet. "Make sure everything's set before the chairs arrive." I unfolded the chart. 34 names, organized like a battlefield. Cousins I hadn't seen since middle school had assigned seats. Ramsey's sister, even her ex-boyfriend from college, had a place. I scanned every row twice before I realized mine wasn't there. "Mom," I said quietly, not quite meeting her eyes. "Where am I sitting?" She waved me off. "Oh, you'll be in the kitchen anyway, sweetie. No need for a seat. 34 names. 34 people who got a place at the table. I wasn't invisible. I was erased." The room was beautiful. White tablecloths, fake eucalyptus runners, gold-trimmed name cards printed in a font that cost more than the napkins. Everything was in place. Everyone was accounted for, except the one who made the whole thing happen. I stared at the chart a little longer than necessary and thought, what if I didn't come at all? Later that afternoon, Mom asked me to preview the slideshow for the party. "Just make sure the transitions are smooth, okay? And check the music. No techno garbage. I want something elegant." I sat in the back row of folding chairs while the projector hummed to life. Photos flicked across the screen. Birthday parties, beach trips, holidays. Everyone was laughing, holding each other, raising glasses. I saw my hands once, in the background, holding a tray. I saw my lemon tart, in Grandma Odessa's photo. But it was Ramsey holding the plate, posing like she'd baked it herself. The photo caption, "Family Favorites." The final slide, "Thank you to everyone who made these years beautiful." I whispered, apparently, I didn't. That night, I decided I would say something. I practiced in my head while setting out the utensils, rehearsed it while chopping onions. I'd find a quiet moment, I told myself. I'd be calm, respectful. But when the moment came, when Calder handed me a grocery list and said, "Can you grab these tomorrow since you're already out?" I said nothing, just nodded. No one asked how I was doing. No one noticed I hadn't eaten. No one looked up. I remembered something my therapist once said. If you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And I finally understood what that meant. Later that evening, as I was folding napkins into the maple leaf shape I'd been doing for years, a new face appeared. A young man in khakis and a red button-up. One of Ramsey's cousin's boyfriends, I assumed. He looked around and said, "Hey, are you with catering?" I turned. "No." "Oh, sorry," he said awkwardly. "I just thought, I didn't see you in any of the photos." I smiled, not out of politeness, out of confirmation. I've folded thousands, I thought, and none of them have ever been for me. I finished the last napkin and walked outside. The air had turned colder, leaves scraped across the parking lot in slow motion. I held a seating card in my hand, someone else's name on it, someone else's place. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my camera roll. Food, plates, tables, candles, my lemon tart, every year, same swirl, but no people, no faces, and almost none of me. Then I saw one. My folded napkins, maple leaf shape. That design, I'd done it every fall, not because someone asked me to, not for recognition, just because it looked like home, and not once had anyone asked why. I walked to the fire pit behind the hall, lit with leftover lighter fluid from the grill. I took a fresh napkin from the bag and folded it, leaf by leaf, carefully. Then I lit the corner and watched it go. The flame caught quickly. Orange curled into black. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt overdue. If I disappear now, I thought, watching the ashes lift into the wind, it'll take them days to realize what's missing. There were more options than I expected, and one of them left the next morning. The message came from a cousin I hadn't heard from in months. She forwarded a voice memo out of the blue, chirpy, and sweet. "Hey, Merrick, just wanted to say how excited we are that you're doing the food again this year. Last year's lemon tart, still talking about it. You're a rock star in this family." I sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, the memo looping quietly through the speaker. But it wasn't the praise that got to me, it was what came next. Attached below the voice memo was a screenshot from the family group chat I wasn't part of. Darla, let her think it's her choice, she always caves anyway. I didn't flinch, didn't toss the phone across the room. My face didn't move at all, but my hand trembled, just a little. I saved the image. Not because I wanted to confront her with it, no. I saved it for me. Later, while pulling an old cookbook from the cabinet, something slipped from the pages. A note, yellowed, familiar cursive. Odessa's handwriting. Loving them doesn't mean you have to lose yourself. I held that note like it was holy. Odessa May was the only person in that family who ever stood beside me in a kitchen without expecting me to feed her ego while feeding her plate. I'd kept that memory alive like it was a tether back to something warm. But standing in that cold kitchen now, that line didn't just sting. It clarified. I hadn't stayed for the family. I'd stayed for the ghost of a woman who no longer walked these halls. The next blow came not from inside the house, but through a screen. Ramsey posted an Instagram story, flashing curated images of family tradition. My tart, my layout, my work, no tags, no mentions, just her caption, "Family traditions are everything." I didn't feel rage, I felt the gravity of being used, long-term wear. The kind that doesn't scream, it erodes. That afternoon, I walked through the garage to put away supplies when I heard them. Ramsey's voice, low but careless. If she flakes, we'll just say she wasn't feeling well. Easy cover. Calder chuckled. We should have had backup anyway. She gets touchy. They laughed. No cruelty, just comfort in my expendability. I stood behind the door, listened, let it burn. Then I walked out the back door. I didn't slam it. I didn't make a sound. At the picnic table, I pulled out a grocery pad from my apron pocket and flipped it over. Started a new list. Reasons not to show up. Each reason came quicker than the last. Later, Willa found me outside, crayons in one hand, a folded piece of paper in the other. She sat beside me on the bench like she always did, quiet, curious. I made something, she said. I opened it. The family sat at a long table. Ramsey, Calder, Grandma's photo on the wall. Everyone smiling. I wasn't in it. Where am I? I asked. Willa looked down. I didn't know where to draw you. You're always in the kitchen. I smiled and nodded. That's fair, she beamed, proud of her art. I folded the paper and tucked it into my sweater pocket. Even the ones who love you the most learn to forget you, because that's the version of you they were given. That night, I stood in the hallway outside my mother's bedroom and made the call. She answered quickly, breathless. Yes? I want to be included in this family, I said, not just used by it. She didn't pause. Don't start drama before the big day. Can't you just be gracious? I ended the call. Mid-sentence. I sat down at the kitchen table alone. No noise. No movement. Just the air vibrating from what I'd just done. Graciousness, I whispered, is what they call it when they need you to be quiet. I opened my laptop, typed in, last-minute flights from Evansville. And for once, I wouldn't be there to fill it. That morning, I woke up out of habit, not energy, not excitement, just routine. The kitchen lights flicked on the second I stepped in, washing the room in a pale yellow that felt more interrogating than welcoming. The list was already on the fridge. Same handwriting, same tone, same damn structure. Don't forget Ramsey's gluten-free. Extra pasta for Willa. 4 lemons, not the bottled stuff. No note for me. Not a single line asking what I might need. Not even a polite thank you. Just orders, like I was some Amazon fulfillment center in human form. I stared at it for a long second. The handwriting hadn't changed since I was 12. I folded the list and shoved it into my coat pocket. I didn't need to read it again. My body already knew the aisles. At Kroger, I moved like a ghost with a cart. Carton of eggs, 2 types of pasta. Greek yogurt, the unsweetened kind because Calder gets mad if it's vanilla. Halfway through the dairy aisle, I stopped and looked around like I'd woken up inside someone else's dream. Cold lights, humming refrigerators, a crying baby 3 rows down, and I couldn't, for the life of me, remember what I came here for. Not for me, that was clear. I touched my chest. The tightness was back, that buzzing under the ribs that says, "You're doing this again. For them, again." "Hey, you okay?" a voice asked. I turned. A man, mid-50s maybe, looking at me with genuine concern. I smiled. "Yeah, just thinking." He nodded and moved on. But I wasn't okay. In the meat section, I stood still, hands gripping the handlebar. My breath felt like it was echoing. My fingers ached. "What am I doing?" I whispered. Not angry, not panicked, just tired. I walked away, left the cart right there, half full, half done, just like me. The parking lot was half empty when I slid into the car. I didn't start it, didn't move. 20 minutes passed like seconds. Or maybe like hours. I wouldn't know. Time bends when you're caught between what you owe and what you've never been given. My old therapist's voice came to mind. Sometimes leaving isn't the hardest part. Deciding not to go back is. I opened my phone. Typed. Flights out of Evansville. Denver? Too close? Chicago? Too familiar? Seattle? Seattle sounded like silence, a silence I didn't have to fill. I didn't book it. Not yet. But I stared at the screen like it was a doorway. My phone buzzed. Dad? I let it ring. Once, twice. Voicemail. His voice filled the car next. "Hope you got everything. A couple more people might show. We trust you'll handle it." He didn't ask how I was, didn't ask what I needed, just trusted I'd handle it, like a dishwasher, like a warming tray. I played the voicemail again, then I deleted it. Driving home, the trees blurred by. My hands stayed steady. No shaking, no tears. Back inside, I made tea. Not for them, for me. I didn't check the list. I didn't care if the pasta was whole grain or not. I just poured hot water over chamomile and sat down like I belonged at the table. The diagram for the napkin folds was still on the counter. I picked it up. The same leaf shape I'd been making for 17 years. I ripped it in half. No sound. Just the soft split of paper. Then I opened my laptop. Booked the flight. Window seat. Early morning. One way. I whispered it out loud, just once, to the kitchen that had never been mine. This time they'll notice the silence. Because some exits don't need to slam, they just need to stay open. For 2 full days, I said nothing. I showed up, moved around the house like furniture, and let them pretend I was part of the decor. Darla fluttered about with gold ribbons and eucalyptus stems, fretting over lighting and linen folds. Ramsay spent hours adjusting her phone stand, testing angles for the party's live stream. Calder counted wine bottles like a man preparing for battle. No one noticed I hadn't bought the groceries. No one asked about the tart. No one wondered why the fridge was still half empty. It was as if my presence, and now my absence, had the same weight. None. Silence, I realized, doesn't make them uncomfortable. It makes their lives easier. That afternoon, while sitting at the end of the hallway pretending to check email, my phone buzzed. Dad. I stared at the screen until it dimmed, then checked the voicemail. His voice was steady, firm, used to being obeyed. "Some extras are coming. We'll need a couple more sides. Hope you're prepping early." No pause. No question. He ended it with a line I'd heard since I was 12. "Don't disappoint your mother." It was never about love. It was always about control dressed as obligation. I didn't call back. I saved the message. "They don't ask," I whispered. "They instruct." That evening, they held the walk-through dinner with the planner from the event hall. I wasn't meant to attend, but I was there, in the background, like always, arranging silverware, wiping fingerprints off serving trays. The planner, a young woman with too much energy, looked up and said, "Sarah, can you check the dessert station?" I didn't flinch. I didn't correct her. Before I could speak, Darla laughed. "That's close enough." The whole room chuckled. Even Ramsay giggled like it was harmless. I stood frozen, holding a tray of name cards. Mine wasn't there, not even misspelled, just not included. If I ever go missing, I thought, Make sure they don't call me by someone else's name in the obituary. I stepped outside and sat alone on the back porch, where no one would follow. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through saved texts from Odessa May. One from years ago stopped me. Don't ever let them rename you with silence. That line cut deeper than any insult. They hadn't just forgotten me. They'd replaced me with a role. And that role didn't need a name. It just needed a body. I stood up, walked inside, packed a small carry-on with quiet hands, a change of clothes, wallet, chargers, my passport, just in case. I didn't rush. I didn't cry. It wasn't an emergency. It was an ending. When the house quieted down around 11 p.m., I walked through the event hall one last time. The tables were set. Each centerpiece aligned like soldiers. The slideshow flickered on the back wall, cycling through loops of curated memories. My photo still wasn't there. I walked up to the main family portrait display, the one they'd enlarged and framed for the welcome table. I flipped it over and peeled off the backboard. No surprise, no handwritten note, no hidden message. I grabbed a sticky note from my purse and wrote just one line. This version of me is fiction. The real one left days ago. I stuck it on the back. Not to be seen, just to be known. Then I walked out. I didn't say goodbye, and I didn't lock the door behind me. It was what my absence revealed about everyone else. The house usually stirred to life before dawn on big days. Not this time. The only sound was the old refrigerator humming like it had something to prove. 4 o'clock. No turkey in the oven. No cinnamon sticks simmering on the stove. No garlic butter spread across the counter. Just cold air and colder silence. Darla walked in first. Her heels clipped the tile sharp. She looked around, blinking once, twice, as if the countertops might explain themselves. "Merrick?" she called out, too casually. Ramsey walked in seconds later, phone already in her hand. "You think she overslept?" Calder, halfway down the stairs, muttered without looking up. "She always pulls through." Then the search began. One checked the garage, one checked my bedroom. The fridge stood untouched. The oven light remained dark. Ramsey dialed me twice. Left a voicemail the second time. Her voice had this tremble rehearsed for sympathy. "Hey, just checking in. Let us know if you're okay." I was okay. I was 30,000 feet in the air. My phone was off. My auto response wasn't. This year, I've chosen myself. Meanwhile, somewhere below, a screenshot slipped through the cracks. In the family group chat, Ramsey meant to send a private message to Calder. She didn't. Let her crash the party if she wants. We've got backup cupcakes. Tamsin saw it. So did Uncle Gary, and Aunt Lisa, and 4 cousins. Tamsin responded first. "You really said that?" Calder tried to delete it, but people remember the first bite more than the second helping. By noon, the parking lot outside the event hall was full. Inside, it wasn't just the food that was missing. It was control. Darla scrambled to arrange the last of the catering trays they'd bought last minute, most of them still frozen. Ramsey hovered near the kitchen door, whispering orders to people who didn't work there. Guests filtered in. Whispering started the moment the spread came into view. "Where's Merrick? I thought she was doing the dinner. Who planned this?" Someone opened a bag of cheese cubes and poured them onto a tray. Another shoved a crock pot onto a folding table, frozen meatballs bobbing in sauce that hadn't warmed. Willa walked up to the dessert table and looked around quietly. "Cousin Merrick always makes the lemon tart," she said. Someone behind her, not unkind, just clueless, replied, "Well, not this year." It landed like a slap. Around 2 p.m., Darla stepped on stage, microphone in hand, dress too tight, smile tighter. "Thank you all for coming. We had a last-minute issue with the kitchen staff." Ramsey stood beside her, nodding like a puppet who'd read the lines 100 times. Some folks clapped, some didn't. A few exchanged glances. A former teacher of mine leaned over to Tamsin in the 3rd row. "She okay?" he whispered. Tamsin shrugged. But the whispers had already begun, and once those start, you can't control which direction they go. They took her for granted. That girl cooked for how many years? Why didn't they plan better? At the head table, there was one chair marked reserved. No one sat in it. Willa came up quietly, without being asked. She held a napkin she'd folded, maple leaf style, just like I used to do. She placed it gently on the seat. No one noticed, not Darla, not Ramsay, not Calder, but someone took a picture. Later that night, that photo would end up on Facebook with the caption, "It wasn't just the food that was missing." Not to explain, not to argue, just to finish my side of the story. Seattle didn't smell like responsibility. It smelled like coffee beans and rain-soaked cedar. Lonnie picked me up from the airport in jeans and a hoodie, no makeup, no script. She didn't ask why I was there, just said, "Glad you came." Her sister was hosting a potluck that evening, nothing fancy. Just a dozen people, mismatched chairs, paper plates, a table full of casseroles and store-bought cookies. I brought the lemon tart, the real one. Nobody asked me to. I just did it because I wanted to. That was the difference. A teenage cousin of Lonnie's set the table. She didn't need direction, just encouragement. She looked proud of herself. Everyone thanked her. As the food was passed around, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in years, sitting down while eating. Nobody timed me. Nobody needed anything. I didn't need a spotlight. I just needed to not be an appliance. Later that evening, one of Lonnie's friends nudged me with her phone. "Is this you?" It was a post from the party back home. Ramsay had uploaded a slideshow, family pictures, captions full of sentiment, and in the middle of it, a painting I had made 5 years ago for my parents' anniversary. It was signed by Ramsay. I stared at it for a beat, smiled, not with sadness, with clarity. "They're not stealing my work," I said softly. "They're stealing the reflection of who I used to let them be." She blinked. "What?" "Nothing," I said, tapping the screen and saving the image. Later, I opened a new folder on my phone, labeled it Proof, Not Pain. An hour passed. I stepped out onto the porch with a mug of tea and a notebook. No noise, no demands, just the hum of a quiet neighborhood and the sound of my own thoughts finding space to exist. I wrote 2 columns, what I will leave behind, what I will carry with me. Under the first, I listed names, not all of them, just the ones who needed to stay on that side of the line. Under the second, I wrote Willa's name, Odessa May, the maple leaf napkin fold. I decided I would teach it to Willa if she ever asked, not because it was tradition, but because it meant something to me. My legacy wouldn't be about credit, it would be about connection. I heard laughter from inside, warm, casual, nothing to perform for. A little girl opened the door. "You want to be in the group photo?" I paused. Then I said yes. I stood between people who didn't grow up with me, but still made space. They didn't ask me to earn it. They just left a spot. Someone's hand rested on my shoulder. I didn't flinch. The smile came easy. That photo wouldn't end up on a wall. No one would print it or post it, but it was the one I'd remember. Later that night, back in the guest room, I sat cross-legged on the bed and opened my phone. Typed slowly. "Dear Mom." Merrick stands, startled, but not afraid. That's how it begins. Peace, not panic. The knock on the door was soft, almost hesitant. Lonnie opened it, and there they were. Willa and her mother, standing on the porch, holding a tray covered in foil. "We thought maybe it was our turn to serve you," her sister-in-law said. I didn't say anything at first. I looked at Willa's hands gripping the edges of the tray, her fingers nervous but steady. I took it from her gently. "Come in," I said. "There's room at the table." Later that night, when the house was quiet again, I checked my phone. One new message. "Willa, I missed your lemon tart, but I missed you more." There was a photo, too. A drawing. Me, seated at the table. I read the message 3 times before replying, not out of hesitation, but out of awe. Maybe I wasn't forgotten. Maybe I was just waiting to be seen by the right eyes. I pulled out a note card and began to write. "Dear Willa, when someone feeds you with love, never forget who served first." Earlier that morning, someone had posted a comment under a party photo. It read, "Shout out to the woman in the red dress. That tart was phenomenal." Ramsay was in the red dress. She accepted the praise. I didn't correct it. I didn't need to. I read the comment, laughed once, dry and sharp, not out of bitterness, just clarity. They kept taking credit for things I built and still couldn't recreate the taste. Recognition isn't always justice. Sometimes it's just noise. I closed the app, left it behind. Dignity didn't need defense. The letter I started in Seattle finally found its end. I didn't write to accuse. I didn't write to punish. I wrote to close the door from my side. Dear Mom, I loved you enough to keep showing up, but I love myself enough now to stop. I didn't include a return address, didn't ask for a reply. I wasn't opening anything. I was sealing it shut. I added one last line. Willa sees me now. That's enough. I hit send. It wasn't silence. It was completion. That weekend, I hosted my own dinner. Nothing extravagant. Just a handful of friends. Everyone brought something. We washed dishes together, shared leftovers. Someone asked for the lemon tart recipe. I gave it freely. Someone else called me chef. I laughed and said, no titles tonight, just family, the kind you get to choose. Before we sat down, I folded a single napkin into a maple leaf, just one, and placed it at an empty seat. For no one. For everyone. Odessa's voice echoed in my mind. Don't lose yourself in love. Carry yourself through it. Later that night, I sat by the window with a mug of tea and a new notebook. Labeled the first page, next chapter. Underneath, I wrote, I am no longer available for silent sacrifices. I snapped a photo, not of food, not of folded napkins, but of me, smiling, holding that mug like it was a passport. Caption, sometimes the best thing you can bring to the table is knowing when to leave it. And then the knock came. Lonnie opened the door. Willa and her mom stood there, tray in hand. We thought maybe it was our turn to serve you.